Hello and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be taking you through my first ever powerlifting competition. So let's get straight into it. So first things first, how did the actual competition go? Well, tiny bit of context, I entered the show about 8 weeks out and I was weighing about 110 kilos. So my true weight class should be the 105 kilo weight class, but I decided to enter the 120 kilo weight class because I was weighing 110 kilos. I didn't want to have to cut into the show or worry about making weight. I just decided it's my first ever comp, it's for fun. I know I don't really stand a chance of qualifying for nationals or anything better, so I'm just going to see what I can lift. I'm going to try and peak my strength, see what my actual maxes are, and then not have to blame cutting down or dropping weight because that might detract from my numbers. So the day was really simple. I had weigh-ins at 1 o'clock, and like I said, because I entered the 120 kilo weight class, I made weight easily. I think I weighed in at 114 kilos with all of my clothes on. We were then supposed to have equipment checks. That is what it says on the British Powerlifting website. I was competing in Northwest Powerlifting, which is part of British Powerlifting, which is part of the IPF, because that is the federation that I want to compete in. And in the future, I want to see how far I can go in the 105 kilo weight class. I'd like to at least get to the national stage in the 105 kilo weight class. You're supposed to, as part of this process, have your equipment checked. We didn't have it checked, which for a lot of people, they'll find that comforting. For me, it actually stressed me out a little bit because I wanted to know that all of my gear was up to specification and I wasn't going to have anything just before I entered the platform or, heaven forbid, after the competition, someone go, these lifts don't count because of the equipment you were wearing. But all of that turned out to be fine. There was a great guy who stood side stage before we entered who just quickly checked your equipment and everything was fine from that standpoint. I then had 2 hours before liftoff started. So weigh-ins were at 1, 3 o'clock was when liftoff started. So there was quite a bit of time to kill. For people who had cut weight, they managed to then eat and refeed. The only thing I had brought was jelly babies because I'd eaten some breakfast, I'd had some Weetabix, and I just had some extra fast releasing sugars and carbs in the jelly babies to help bolster my glycogen stores throughout the day and to boost my energy. You don't need to bother with any protein on a competition day. Protein's great for helping building strength and building muscle and aiding your recovery, but once it's built on the competition day, it's just going to sit in your stomach. If you eat protein as opposed to carbs, they're going to bind with water and create glycogen, which is going to store in your muscles and help provide you with the energy you need. So if you are going to do a competition of your own, definitely just eat carbs, and fast releasing carbs like sugars, like in jelly babies, are fantastic for this. So first lift was squats. For those who don't know, you have 3 attempts to hit a maximal squat, and then you do your bench press, and then you do your deadlifts. Now, I massively messed up warming up and preparing for my squats. So what happened was there was the 105 kilo weight class, which were flight A, and they would do their 3 squats, and then it would straight away go into flight B, which was the 120 kilo weight class, and one lifter who was in the 120 plus kilo weight category. And I had come in and seen everybody standing around, and there were some unbelievably jacked guys there. I was like, holy moly, these guys are going to completely decimate me. Actually quite excited me. I wanted to see what they could lift. They looked so jacked, but I was like, I'm going to follow them. I'm just going to copy what they do. They look like they know what they're doing. And they do know what they look like they're doing because they were the coaches. So that's where I went massively wrong. I was waiting and waiting. I got into my kit when the 105 started lifting at 3 o'clock. They did their first squats and stuff. I was looking at these massive jack guys. I was like, they've not even got in their kit yet. They're still in t-shirts. I've got ages. And then they were halfway through their second squats. And I thought, they go straight from their squats into our firsts. This isn't a lot of time to get changed and warm up. And then the penny dropped. They're the coaches, and I looked around and all the athletes had already started warming up like 20 minutes before. That is when the panic really set in, because I'd gone from having like 2 hours from weigh-in, 2.5 if you include flight A's time, to warm up, to doing it last minute. Classic. This is lack of experience. If you are doing a competition, you can come in with a handler, and that is advisable to have somebody to walk you through it. Other people had offered their help as well throughout the day, because I'd said it was my first competition. They were like, oh, if you have any questions, just ask me about anything. I didn't ask anyone. I got into a stressful situation, so I was literally had about 5 minutes to warm up. I was sprinting, like slamming on plates on the side, just bombing a squat in, and then immediately trying to warm up fast. Now, the one saving grace is that I train the conjugate system, where I max out every week. I do an upper max variation and a lower max variation of the squat or deadlift every week. So I am used to building up to maxes a lot. I'm actually quite conditioned for maxing out. If I was a linear lifter who did long blocks of training and built up to a 1 rep max for competitions, I think there was a very good chance of me injuring myself during this warm-up process, because I was literally just doing single at 70 kilos, a single at 120 kilos, a single at 170 kilos, and a single at 190 kilos, ready for my opening lift of 200 kilos. Luckily, I managed to get all of that in, and I managed to get there for the platform. Like I said, the equipment check all went well. The guy at the side knew it was my first competition. He was really nice. He was like, yep, everything's right. Just calm yourself down. Try and hit this lift. But because I've been so stressed from warming up so late, I unracked it. That was fine. I actually told the spotters quickly that I'm going to bomb really quickly to the bottom. Because that is my squat style, to try and take advantage of the stretch reflex. So unracked it, seemed okay, loads of adrenaline, bombed to the bottom, stood up with it really quickly, but took a little step forward with my left leg. Now that's not allowed in competition. You have to wait and have the re-rack command from the judge before you re-rack. So I was actually given 2 white lights and only 1 red, which meant it was a good lift, but really I knew that lift shouldn't have been passed. But the good news is that I didn't fail it on strength. So, and because I'd been given the lift, I was like, I might as well go up now. So my opening lift was 200 kilos. I'd now decided to do a jump to 210 kilos. My all-time PR was 220 kilos, and I thought a 10 kilo jump, it's still 10 kilos back from my all-time PR. I sort of felt good in the first lift. I don't know how I felt really. There was just loads of adrenaline. But I decided to try 210. So came out for my second lift. Same sort of process, nice setup, unracking the bar, dive bomb to the bottom again, and completely stood up with it, to be honest. It was exceptionally easy on the way up. Now, I was thrown a bit. Like I said, I train conjugate all the time, and I can usually tell what my max is going to be from the warm-ups, and that is because I have like no adrenaline and I'm just very used to it at this stage. In competition, I sort of knew it moved fast, but I didn't know whether it was easy or not easy. So for the third lift, I was like, okay, let's go for it. I'm gonna go for 220 kilos to equal my all-time lifetime PR. I thought it was quite ambitious, but I might as well throw it on there. It would be amazing to get it passed in competition. So came out for my third lift. Again, the official at the side gave me some nice words of encouragement. He was a great guy in general, and he was like, yes, that second squat was way better. He was calming me down. He was like, just focus, listen to the commands, and it'll all go well. So I go for the third squat, I bomb down again, and I have a tiny sticking point in the middle, but really, I sort of just stood up with it. And that is the best 220s ever moved for me. Previously, I have maxed out and hit 220 in this gym before, and I can flash that up on screen. It was significantly harder. It was way more of a grind. So personally, I think I could maybe have hit 225 on the day, but I was absolutely made up to hit 220. All of the commands went well. The squat overall was a massive success. So moving on to bench press, I then did not want to make the same mistake I'd made warming up with the squat. I didn't want to leave it to the last minute. So there was a 15-minute break before lifters started lifting off again. So I grabbed some jelly babies, I warmed up. I had a guy who was nice and helpful backstage who helped change the plates for me. I've never had that luxury before, so that was nice. And we practiced with commands. He gave me start, press and rack commands, which are the commands for the bench press. And I've never had that before either. The first time I'd ever actually pressed with commands was in the warm-up room backstage just before going out. Warmed up, built up 70 kilos, 120 kilos, then 130 kilos because my opener was 135. The 130 felt a little bit shaky. I'm not confident with pausing that much. I usually don't train with a pause. But I was like, okay, I hit 130. I should definitely hit the 135 opener. And guess what? Flight A started lifting. I completely forgot about the 105 weight class. So they had all their lifts to go through. So I now had half an hour to wait. I'd peaked way too early and warmed up too early. I was like, are you absolutely kidding me? How have I managed to screw up the warm up again? So I waited around. I tried to just generally keep warm, blood flowing. There were some watt bikes backstage, ate some more jelly babies, had some more water, tried to feel good. I actually didn't do another lift. I was like, look, the 130 moved well. I'm feeling warm. The whole gym was warm as well because there's lots of sweaty people around. So I go out for my opening bench press. A little nervous about the commands, but feeling like 135 is light enough for me to actually succeed. My all-time record though on bench with a pause is 140 kilos. So my best ever bench press, touch and go, like bouncing, is 147.5 kilos. But my best bench with a pause was done about 6 weeks out. That was the first time I'd done a proper pause bench, and that was only 140 kilos. So a little nervous going into this. 135 openers, probably cutting it a bit fine. Went for it and didn't screw up any of the commands, which was great. Managed to hit it pretty much with very good ease. So I went on to immediately do 140. I was like, wow, I'm going to be able to maybe level my lifetime PR. I'm also really happy that I got a lift in because then I'll register a total. A total is your squat plus your bench plus your deadlift combined. And once you've opened up on a number, you can't go down in powerlifting. So if I'd missed 135, it would have been a bit of a disaster. It would be unlikely that I'd hit it again and then I'd probably have bombed the whole show. But I hit it, came out for my second lift at 140 and to be honest, smoked it. I did it pretty easily. So that was nice and surprising. In competition to hit 140, that is my main goal as well coming into the competition. I was like, I'm going to be very happy if I hit 140, leveling my PR as well, like in the squat. But I had a third attempt and it moved pretty easily. So I was like, let's go for it. I decided to load up 145. So came out for the third attempt. Pretty nervous. I thought 145 is only 2.5 off my like touch and go lifetime PR. I've often even tried to do touch and go benches at 145 and failed them. I didn't think with a pause command I'd be able to do it. I came out and I had a tiny bit of a grind, but I managed to do it. So I was like so happy with that. And although it looked like a bit of a grind and I was shaking, I have grinded way harder every week on my normal max effort attempt. So like I said, I train conjugate and I do an upper max variation every week. My normal upper max variation is so much harder the way that I grind. I can literally give the one that I've done today at the time of recording this. I did a banded 15-degree incline press, and you can see that I grind for absolutely ages on the way up. It's like a 6-second grind. So that meant that I had way more in the tank on the bench. I actually think I could have hit 147.5 kilos paused in competition on the bench. So moving on to deadlift. At this stage, I was feeling pretty good. My opening deadlift was 240 kilos. My all-time best deadlift is 270 kilos, but I have a high sticking point on the deadlift and often I hitch. So for those who don't know, hitching is allowed in like strongman style deadlifts. And it's where you sort of lean back and shimmy the bar up your thighs at the top of the lift. That is not allowed in powerlifting. It has to be one fluid motion. The bar isn't allowed to dip at any time and you're not allowed to like pull it up your thighs. So I've never actually deadlifted really over 250 kilos without hitching. So that suddenly was going through my mind, and the fact that I'd never done this many max efforts in a day. I'd done 3 squats and 3 benches now. I was like, oh, I hope I'm not too fatigued for deadlift. Even though 240 is significantly lighter than my best of 270, it's sort of pushing it there, and I don't think I've really lifted this weight without hitching to powerlifting standards before, so I was still pretty nervous going into the deadlift. Came out for my first deadlift of 240 kilos. Like I said, I was a bit nervous, had a setup which was pretty easy. I deadlift beltless and I completely smoked it. It felt pretty easy. There wasn't even really a sticking point. It was definitely one fluid motion. Got the down command and was very happy. This meant that I had registered a total, and I think my total was at 605 kilos at this stage. So that was fantastic. My goal for the show was to try and hit a 600 kilo total. That's averaging 200 kilos per lift. I thought that that was a pretty cool goal to have. I remember trying to hit 200 kilos on the deadlift, my best lift, and thinking that that was a great milestone to be able to hit 200 kilos on one lift. And if I totaled 600 kilo, that's averaging 200 kilos over the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. So my total was 605 kilos. That was secured. I was very happy with that first deadlift, and I decided to jump to 255. Basically because I felt really good, and I was hoping that I could just smoothen up that top end of the deadlift and that I wouldn't hitch. I knew I had the ability to lock out 255. Again, it was just trying not to hitch like I sometimes do at the top. So I come out for my second attempt of 255, blast it off the floor as I always do, and there is a bit of a sticking point. Basically, when the bar's level with my singlet, it is a crazy sticking point to have. It's like 2-3 inches from lockout. If I had deadlifting arms, that would be great, because as you can see, the bar locks out very high up on my legs. There are some people built for deadlifting who lock out literally just above their knees, and I don't pull sumo either. So I do real deadlifting instead. Anyway, managed to hit the 255 with a little bit of a sticking point, and I was starting to feel it. I was starting to feel a bit drained. So I went over to say my next attempt, and I was like, can I do 265? And then I thought, to heck with it. I'll do 270. I'll try and level my lifetime PR in the deadlift as well. And that 270 I'd achieved about 8 weeks out from the competition. But that was on like the perfect day where I'd primed just for that one lift. And I failed 270 kilos many times over like the last year, just not able to lock it out. And I sort of hitched on that 270 where I did get it. So I was thinking it was pretty unlikely that I was going to get it. Anyway, came out for the third lift to hit that 270 setup. Had a bit of a longer setup, just trying to compose myself, make sure I was in the right position. And then fired it off the ground, hit my classic sticking point. It was challenging, but I knew I could lock it out. The only thing that was going through my mind is don't hitch, don't hitch, don't hitch. You have the strength to lock it out. Just make sure you don't hitch so it doesn't get failed by the judges. And luckily, I didn't hitch. It managed to just grind up to the top. I got the 3 white lights and I was massively happy. I was ecstatic. I'd managed to level my lifetime PRs on the squat and the deadlift, and then break my bench lifetime PR by 5 kilos and put it all together on one day. Managed to get 9 out of 9 attempts passed, even though the first squat really probably should have been failed with that little step. But the point was, I was very, very happy. It then turned out that I'd won the 120 kilo weight class. So that was like a massive bonus. I came out and I got a nice little medal and some Red Bulls, which were really cool. But yeah, it was just very fun. The win was like a nice bonus, but the main thing was I was just really happy for myself and my own numbers, what I'd managed to achieve. And that was another great thing of the day. I'd met lots of other people who were really nice. They were very congratulatory. I think it's congratulations. They congratulated me very nicely. They were all great people, very encouraging throughout the day and offering advice. And yeah, it was all very nice. I'd managed to win that and everyone was just focused on themselves. So yeah, the win was like a nice little bonus, but really very happy with my performance. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of those good things. There is a link in the description to my coaching services if you're also wanting to get strong, and if you want me to oversee your tapering into a competition, if you are wanting to sign up for a competition and you just want to absolutely maximize your performance, check out the link in the description. All of the information about my coaching's in there, like price and everything's written down. There's like a 2-minute video that explains things as well. So please go and check that out. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.